welcome to Shepherds Purse Cheeses. I'm Caroline Bell, I'm Judy's youngest daughter. Judy was the founder of Shepherds Purse Cheeses, and we now run Shepherds Purse. My sister and I now run Shepherds Purse, my sister Katy. So we're all here in the offices today, but we did think about all three of us trying to do a live together, but I think we'd need more than 30 minutes. So I drew the straw. I won't say if it was the short straw or the long straw, and I'm here and the guys are in the other room, and they may pop in to say hello a bit later on. So first off, I just want to say a huge thank you. I don't know if you guys have managed to tune into any of the other sessions on the weekend, over the weekend, but I've seen quite a few and I think it's been fantastic, such a fantastic weekend. So I want to thank Tracy Colley, who's here somewhere in the comments, I just saw her, Patrick, the Academy of Cheese, Specialist Cheesemakers and the Guild of Fine Food, who've all come together to kind of make this event happen. And all the contributors so far have been brilliant, which is probably what's contributed slightly to my nerves of doing this session today. That and the fact I haven't done a tasting for so many weeks due to the lockdown. So we'll see how it goes. The plan today is to try and tell the history of Shepherds Purse through our cheeses. So I've got all the cheeses here on the table. I'm going to try and man the camera and lift the cheeses up so that you can see. So I'll tell you a little bit about the beginnings of Shepherds Purse, and then how we evolved as a company, how we began making blue cheeses, some of the challenges that we've faced throughout the history and our history, and one of the kind of projects, or one of the cheeses that's kind of played a really key role in our history from the very beginning to today is our Fettle cheese, which used to be called Feta, and then we had to change the name, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then we've recently just very quickly launched a new format of our Fettle cheese, which I'll show you later, and I'll tell you the full story. So without further ado, I'll get started. So we're here on the farm in Thirsk in North Yorkshire, and that's where Shepherds Purse was founded back in the 1980s. So it was founded by my mum, Judy Bell. We're a mixed arable farm, and we're 5th generation farmers, and now on the farm we're 2nd generation cheesemakers. It was when I was old enough to go to school, so I'm the youngest of 4 children, that mum decided that bringing up 4 kids and helping out on the farm wasn't a big enough challenge for her. So of course she took another job at an osteopath's part-time, and it was when she was working there that she discovered that more and more people were becoming diagnosed with cow's milk allergies. And at that time they didn't really have many alternatives. So it's quite hi Si, sorry, I've never done this with the comments as well. So people were being diagnosed with cow's milk allergies, and there weren't that many alternatives on the market for those that did suffer with cow's milk allergies. So at the same time, the Ministry of Agriculture were encouraging smaller farms like ours to diversify. And when Mum started learning more about sheep's milk, that's when when everything started to come together. And obviously she did a big business plan and worked out how that was going to work out over time. Of course, anyone that knows Judy knows that absolutely isn't what she did. She actually just went out and bought 5 sheep and started cracking on and seeing what she could do. So as a 6-7-year-old at the time, I remember my memories of it are Mum experimenting with sheep's milk ice cream. The sheep's milk itself is delicious, but then she'd be experimenting with yogurts and ice cream and flavoured yogurts. And the cheese making came just slightly after that. So she was starting experimenting with cheese from sheep's milk because sheep's milk is fantastic for cheese making. And then she joined the local regional food group, and that's where she met Les Lambert from Fountains Dairy. It's now part of Wensleydale Cheese at Kirby Malzett. Les was quite excited to hear about this crazy lady making cheese from sheep's milk, because the sheep's milk Wensleydale had disappeared from Yorkshire, from anywhere at the time. And so he was really keen to get his hands in a vat of sheep's milk. So he very kindly came and mentored Mum on kind of a weekend. and they made a sheep's milk Wensleydale together. So that was one of our first cheeses, and our other couple of first cheeses were Olde York, which is a fresh sheep's milk cheese, and it was Yorkshire Feta. It was actually, the packaging didn't look the same. It was very much produced, we produced Yorkshire Feta in wax truckles like this, and we continued to produce Yorkshire Feta in wax truckles like that until this last few weeks actually. But those were the first cheeses that Mum ever produced, with the help of her mentor, Les Lambert. And Les encouraged Mum. One of the two things that he encouraged her to do in that year, it was 1989 by now, we'd tested a lot of cheese. I think we'd made lots of mistakes and we'd fed the pigs lots of cheese. There's lots of work goes into developing a new cheese and it doesn't always go right. So lots of experimenting has happened, and now we're in 1989. And he encouraged her to do two things. One was put your cheeses into competition. Competitions are really important for cheesemakers. And the second thing was to exhibit your cheeses, go to shows. So that year was a pivotal year for us. We went to the Great Yorkshire Show in the July and we launched Shepherds Purse Cheeses. And that same month, he encouraged, Les also encouraged Mum, he took our cheeses over to Nantwich International Cheese Show. And Mum was like, well, you're crazy, you're not going to do anything, it's a bit soon, but if you want to. So he did, and the Yorkshire Show first went really brilliantly. It went well, but what we learnt at that first show, and obviously I was quite young still, but and I probably remember subsequent shows. I probably don't quite remember the first one, but definitely in subsequent shows as well. We were really proud that we were making a cheese from sheep's milk, but the Yorkshire folk, maybe of the Great Yorkshire Show, and the farmers who told us we were crazy for doing it in the first place, maybe weren't quite ready. So we were put pictures of sheep on the stand, like really beautiful, like lovely pictures of sheep and sheep milking. And sometimes people would try the cheese and they hadn't quite looked at the stand first, and they'd try the cheese and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's nice. And then they'd see the sheep and they were really put off at the time. That was kind of in as I say, late 80s and early 90s. And so we learned that we really had to let the cheese speak for itself to start with. I think now it would be very different. I think food culture's moved on so much from the late 80s and early 90s that I think obviously now it's a fantastic thing, and I think our marketing from then would work a lot better from now. But still, we'd launched the company and that was fantastic. Then Nantwich is later in July, so I think Mum tells the story that she was here making cheese when she got the call from Les Lambert to say that Olde York, again, that's this one. So Olde York had picked up a gold medal, and I think she said she nearly fell off a stool because she's quite short, so she has a stool to be making from the vat. She's in the other room, so I'm feeling brave saying things like that. Yeah, she says she nearly fell off a stool, and I think that was really important for Mum from a confidence point of view. I think it showed that we all really enjoyed our cheeses, but I think that showed that other people that they were good cheeses, and really gave us confidence as a family to kind of carry on. Not that we would have not carried on anyway, but it really gives you confidence that what you're doing is a really kind of good and worthwhile thing. So, and I think that kind of idea that we make cheeses that we love ourselves, we would, and that's kind of carried on throughout our history, and so I think that's as we move on through the story, I'll explain that a little bit more. So that first year was fantastic, and we launched the products out into the market. And Dad would drive around the Dales selling cheese to the little shops that existed then. And booths were also one of our very first customers way back then. And the company grew, and our flock of sheep grew. So it grew to around about 400 sheep, and we still needed more milk in the end, which was fantastic. So we developed a little group of kind of satellite producers as well, and we developed a process for buying in milk, And it was once we developed that process for buying in milk too, that we realised, and we were becoming known as the 90s kind of ticked on, we were becoming known more as artisan cheese producers rather than producers of cheeses and products that were available for people who were intolerant to cow's milk. I kind of glossed over that bit maybe at the beginning a bit too much, but it was a really important part of our story of what drove our company to start with. But we do realise that not everybody is intolerant, obviously, to intolerant or allergic to cow's milk. So that's when we were thinking, well, maybe we could introduce, as we were growing as cheesemakers, maybe we could introduce cow's milk too. So we thought, well, if we do introduce cow's milk, what type of cheese would we like to make? And my brother and my mum were thinking about it. And again, it comes back to what did we enjoy and have in our fridge, and we felt, what do we feel there was a gap there for? And we kind of really enjoyed kind of the mellow, creamy blues like Sanagur. And at the time, there weren't, I think there was a couple of small producers across the country, but not many. And we thought, actually that's something that we'd be really proud to try and make. If we thought that making the original cheeses was difficult, you should have seen the development cheeses that came out of trying to make a blue cheese and figure out how to make blue cheeses. It was yeah, it's a difficult process. But the first cheeses we made was a used milk blue. Once we started experimenting with blue, we did start straight away with used milk and cow's milk, and we started with Yorkshire Blue ewes and Yorkshire Blue cows, and it wasn't until 1997 actually that we rebranded the used milk one Mrs. Bell's Blue. So I'll try and show you them without it falling over. So this is the cow's milk. This is the cow's milk, the Yorkshire Blue, and it's absolutely fantastic at the moment. In fact, we've been eating these cheeses as we cut them up, and they're all absolutely bang on at the moment. Oh, I might have ruined it. Is that okay? Are we back okay? So I'll show you a piece. So that would be your Yorkshire Blue. You can see the golden colour of the cow's milk. It's so soft and creamy. And that's kind of the characteristic of our blue cheese. I'll just get a different knife. And the Mrs. Bell's Blue, you can tell, is much whiter in appearance, but still that soft and creamy nature. So these cheeses have been out probably for about an hour, and they're all really warming up. And I think that's a key thing for cheeses in general, is you would nearly always want to get them to room temperature before you serve them, and that allows you to experience the full texture and flavour of the cheese. And I think that once we'd produced these, I think we were really excited to get them launched and get them out there, and they really took our business. They really made our business take off of almost to another level. So when we launched it in 1994 first, and I think kind of, as I say, it took us a few years to redevelop Mrs. Bell's Blue, relaunch Mrs. Bell's Blue as Mrs. Bell's Blue. But in the 1990s, they picked up some kind of quite big awards and really took our business to another level. As I said, that confidence in cow's milk really kind of came into its own. So we looked to expand on the farm to match this production, and we built this beautiful building that we're in now, which has our offices, but downstairs, most importantly, it has a bigger production area. So Mum moved out of a production area that was about the size of 2, maybe 3 front rooms into this quite big cheese hall, so that we could produce far more cheese. And that building started, I think, in 1999/2000, and we'd not long had it up before the 2001 foot and mouth crisis happened. So we just made this kind of big investment in the company and in our production, and then we had this kind of big foot and mouth crisis. So it was really really quite, I mean, challenging isn't really the word. It was traumatic in every way. I think any farmers on here that remember it, anybody actually, maybe not just farmers, but for farmers it was particularly traumatic. For us, it meant that by then what we'd done is somebody that we were buying our milk from, our sheep's milk from, had taken our flock because we had struggled to manage producing the milk to the quality we wanted, plus making cheese, expanding the cheese. So they'd taken our flock and they were paying us back in the milk. And we had, as I say, we had a few satellite sheep milk producers as well around us. And in 2001, we lost all of the Whitby flocks. We lost our original flock, and we lost a couple of our satellite producers' flocks as well. And it was a traumatic time. Obviously, that meant no more sheep's milk cheese. First off, it was the trauma of it, because they didn't actually have foot and mouth. They were just, we lost them in a contiguous cull. And then trying to build back from that, working with our farmers, and some of them just didn't want to come back in after that situation hit, which was totally understandable. And we just expanded. Obviously, it took us probably 5 years to recover from that situation as a business. It was it was difficult and heartbreaking. I've just seen a comment. It was heartbreaking is the right word. So our sheep's milk business really took a hit there as well. But it didn't stop us being the most passionate. We knew we worked hard to get it back, and that's where Simon Stock came in and started supplying us with sheep's milk and helping us get back on our feet from a sheep's milk point of view. And we built back through kind of that really difficult decade, really, from 2000 to 2010. In that time, Katy, my sister, probably started to take over. Well, a few things happened actually. First of all, we introduced buffalo milk. So in 2003, a local farmer of ours, just in Northallerton, which is one of our closest towns, started making cheese from, started with water buffalo, because his son was suffering from cystic fibrosis. For the same reason in a way, water buffalo milk is better for people suffering from cystic fibrosis. And so I think he spoke to us about whether or not we'd try with the milk, and we did, and absolutely fell in love. Thanks, Alison, halfway through. Absolutely fell in love with water buffalo milk. It's fantastic. It's an amazing milk to work with. I'll show you our Buffalo Blue, and Nigel Barden featured it brilliantly on Friday night on his cheese and bevies at Nigel's. But water buffalo milk is such a beautiful milk to work with, and as a blue cheese, it's our kind of trademark signature, soft and creamy. But it's got this beautiful kind of really light texture on the palate as it disappears at the end. Really, really, really beautiful milk. In the end, Langthorns at Northallerton ended up moving their herd over to meat rather than milk. But we'd fallen so much in love with the milk that we had to find an alternative, and that's where our buffalo Bob Palmer stepped in, and we've ended up with a fantastic supply. And we're really proud to have this cheese back in the stable with Buffalo Blue alongside all of our other blue cheeses. And then Mum was starting to think about taking a step back from the business. She's always been heavily involved in the local regional food groups after being so grateful for their existence when we were starting the business. And she was heavily involved with lots to do with that. And Katy, my sister, really stepped in to kind of take on cheese making a little. And it was while she was beginning or getting more into the cheese making side of it that she developed one of my favourite cheeses. They're all my favourites. It's like kids, I think. And she developed Bluemin White. And I'm just going to have to use the camera again. Try and use the camera again. So I've just cut into it. I was going to cut into it on the screen. Let me see. Can you see? So this is Bluemin White. Oh, let me see. Quite hard to man. So Bluemin White is this beautiful blue mould ripened cheese, made with cow's milk again. But we don't, unlike with the blue, with normal blue cheeses, we don't pierce the cheese. We let it ripen in these small truckles, and we do a slightly bigger truckle. But it's still got that kind of little bit of a kick of the blue. So yeah, it's mellow and mild, like our cheeses in relation to other blue cheeses are all fairly mellow and mild, apart from one which I'll tell you about in a second. But it's got that beautiful texture. But I'm not going to lie, actually, Bluemin White, we developed that, and I think we launched it in 2008, unless I get a shout from the other room, maybe earlier, but I think it was 2008. And it's been well received, but it's been a bit of a difficult child. It's a very difficult cheese to make and get right, and it's been a bit difficult. We think we're getting there, although I want to touch wood and I don't want to jinx anything. I think we are making progress with it, to be able to make it much more consistently. It's always been a fantastic cheese, always been one of my favourites, but sometimes difficult to make consistently. So, but I think we're getting it all these years on, and I think we're not far off getting there, which is amazing. And then as we were getting into the late, like the 2010, I was the youngest of the four of us, so there wasn't really, as a growing small family business, there certainly wasn't room, first generation, for me to come kind of straight from school or college back into the business. And I went away and worked elsewhere, did university and stuff, and worked elsewhere. But it was coming to the stage where Mum was stepping back. As I said, Katy was stepping in production, and we were working together on weekends when I wasn't at work, my work. And we decided, I think 2012, it became the point where this is the time, we need to kind of step in, let Mum step back entirely, and both Katy and I can step up and take on Shepherds Purse entirely. So Katy had a cheese in development, and it was called Harrogate. Well, we didn't have a name actually, but it was this one. It's now called Harrogate Blue. And part of the reason for the name is I normally, not at the moment, I live on a farm at the moment, but normally I live in Harrogate, and I have lived in Harrogate for nearly 10 years, I think. So I was living in Harrogate when we were launching this, and that's where the name came from. It's our local town. It's been a town, actually. It houses Fodder and the Cheese Board and lots of other great retailers, and it's been a fantastic support for us as Shepherds Purse as we've been growing as a company. And so yeah, this was Harrogate Blue. We launched it in 2012. We really kind of refocused our business and looked at kind of what we were all about, and I think we're still about that today. We're about absolutely top quality blue cheeses and sheep's milk cheeses, or sheep's milk, water buffalo milk, cow's milk. We specialise in blues, and we have this fantastic kind of history and legacy and passion for our sheep's milk cheeses as well. The last cheese, before I talk more, I guess, about Fettle and maybe take some questions, is Northern Blue. So one of the gaps in that people have asked, most people we're converting with our blue cheeses. People say they don't like blue cheese, and we say, please just give it a try, and if you don't like this, then we'll leave you to it, and you really don't like blue cheeses. But if they're brave enough to try, they'll often say, oh yeah, actually I like that. That's not like the blue cheeses I may have tasted, or they may have memories of tasting blue cheese when they were younger, when their palates were a bit more sensitive, and it's made them never chase blue cheese again. But the creaminess and mellowness, that's how our blue cheeses kind of roll normally. And one of the things we were starting to get was, have you got anything a bit stronger? So Northern Blue is really our slightly stronger version. So we use a different strain of Penicillium Roqueforte, and Penicillium Roqueforte is the blue mold culture that makes a blue cheese blue, and there's different strains of it. We use a different strain for that. We lengthen the maturation profile, and it's got that little bit more kind of kick. We say it's made with cheese from hard as nails northern cows, just that it's called Northern Blue, a little bit harder, a little bit stronger than its brother cheese, Yorkshire Blue. I'm being told there's 5 minutes left, so I'm going to make a plea and tell you a little bit about the story. So Fettle, I told you about Feta earlier, the first cheese that we ever made, and the history, and we made it as Yorkshire Feta until a letter dropped on our desk from the Ministry of Agriculture in 1996. telling us that we were going to have to stop calling it feta because of the PDO application from the Greeks. We really fought hard to try and save the name over many years. Actually, it wasn't until 2007 that we finally got word that we'd have to change the name from Yorkshire Feta. We couldn't use that name anymore. We knew that it was going to impact on the market because people wouldn't know what it was as easily, because don't forget we were making it in waxed rounds like this. But chefs love the feta cheese. It's 100% sheep's milk. It's fantastic quality. But we fought really hard, and it wasn't until 2007 that we had to change the name. We tried loads of things. We tried to publish, I can't believe it's not feta, feta with a PH, but they weren't taking any of that. The name that we came up with, thanks to our community and people in Yorkshire, was Fettle, and it was an amazing name. It's a Yorkshire name. It means to fettle something is to solve something, and to be in fine fettle is to be in a good state, and that's what we strive to be. And it was a great name for kind of overcoming this challenge of changing the name from feta, and so Yorkshire Fettle began in 2007. We invested a lot in kind of trying to let people know that it was feta, but we always knew that the way it was packaged kind of limited us. So we always had this idea in our mind to package it more like a feta. And we finally, in January, February this year, we started preparing for a potential summer launch of this cheese. And then when the coronavirus crisis hit, I spoke to our sheep milk farmers via Simon Stott shortly after the food service had been ordered to close, and he was in dire straits. He told me that we were only 1 out of 2 of his normal 22 producers left doing anything, and he said, "Caroline, please don't tell me any bad news." And I wasn't ringing him for bad news, actually. I was ringing him to sort of tell him we were fighting hard for our sheep's milk, and we knew the situation, because as I say, we've had sheep, we've been heavily involved, we've suffered with losing our sheep's milk supply before. We wanted to support our sheep milk farmers. After speaking to Simon, I gathered the team here and said, listen, I know it's a risk, and I know we've got a fridge full of cheese that isn't going anywhere at the moment, but we could take more cheese and lay it down into feta if we make it in this way. And if we can get this product live, if we can take that risk and we can get this product live, then it's a great format. We've always believed in it. We've always believed in this format. So from that moment of talking to Simon, we then started talking to our creatives and our packaging people, saying how quickly could we make this happen. Our finance people here, to be fair, told us we were mental, trying to think about A, investing more money, and B, investing money in things like packaging and launching a new product into this market. But we believed in it, and it would enable us to try and help to keep our sheep milk farmers going. And so I'm so proud to say that we managed to do it, and we launched this thanks to amazing work from our creative teams and amazing work from our packaging people and everybody involved in trying to get it and getting this done, and getting a landing page done and everything done. We managed to launch it on Monday the 4th of May. And we're so proud, and really proud to announce our retailers have been incredibly supportive, as have people buying from the website. It's been fantastic since launch, and I'm really proud to say it's going into Booth stores and it's going into Morrison's Yorkshire stores in the next few days or coming weeks. We're moving as quickly as we can, and I can't thank our retailers enough for their support, but we really need you, and we do need you to buy it so that we can commit to taking more sheep milk, and so that we can work through our store full of cheese. We've still got a store full of cheese, we're still working through it. This weekend has really helped, but we do need more help. So I think the links have been posted in the comments. If you could please go along, tell your friends and share with your friends and let them know, and hopefully we can save these sheep milk farmers who have started drying off. I'll maybe do another live to go into more detail with this, because I think I'm at time. So I think we'll do another live. I don't want to eat into other people's time, but thank you for listening, and thanks and we'll put all the links in the comments, and thanks again to the Academy of Cheese, Tracy Colley, Patrick McGuigan, Specialist Cheesemakers, I think we've put in the comments as well the directories for all the cheesemakers, because it isn't only about us. I've shared our story today, but it's all the specialist cheesemakers in the UK are in a similar boat. So please go and take a look and support the small cheesemakers. And thanks again for this weekend, and thanks for joining us. So okay, I'm out. Thank you very much.